Welcome to the deep dive. So today, we're taking a bit of a unique approach to being well-informed.
A shortcut, really.
Yeah, exactly. We're not digging through some 1,000-page policy brief or anything like that. Instead, we're looking at a blueprint.
That's right. Our source material today is the structure of a formal speaking exam syllabus.
Which sounds dry, I know.
It does, but the focus is on how people communicate about, well, three huge pillars of life: your personal world, your daily routine, and how you interact with the news.
And the reason this really matters to you, the listener, is pretty profound. I mean, by analyzing the exact questions they prioritize in a test like this.
A really high-stakes test.
Right. You immediately get this lightning-fast insight into what skills are considered essential in, the modern world. This syllabus is basically a map.
It is. It's a roadmap telling you exactly what you need to be able to talk about clearly to be seen as an effective communicator. We're going to see how personal topics scale up into these much bigger societal discussions.
So let's unpack this map. Our plan is to move through the three main parts. First, setting that personal baseline.
Then the storytelling part.
Right, the narrative challenge, and then finally we get into the big stuff, the critical discussion about society.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Part one.
Part one, the introduction and interview.
Yeah.
This whole thing is designed to be a quick conversational exchange. It's about 4 or 5 minutes, and it just sets the baseline.
But it's not just small talk. It's a really quick survey of your ability to articulate, facts, context, and your preferences. And the first few questions are all about home and family.
You see that immediately. They don't just ask, where do you live?
No, it's more specific.
It's, do you live in a house or an apartment? And then right away, the reflective question, what do you like most about your home?
And that little detail, that shift from a fact house or apartment to a preference.
Yeah.
That's the first major test. It's about your descriptive language, your vocabulary, your ability to explain what you value. You have to, paint a picture.
You can't just give an address. And then they immediately try to get your social context with the follow-up, which is, do you spend much time with your family?
That's so key. It shows that they see communication as part of social integration, not just a monologue.
Then it shifts. Right away, it moves to study and work.
And this is where they start testing accountability, self-awareness. It's not enough to just say what your job is.
No, and this is where it gets really interesting for me,
Yeah.
because they focus so heavily on motivation, on evaluation. They make you explain why you chose your field.
Think about what skill that's testing. It's justification.
Right.
You have to show that you can connect what you're doing now to some future goal. It links your daily work to a reasoned choice.
It separates someone who just, fell into a job from someone who's actively building a career.
Exactly. And they push that self-evaluation even further. You have to identify the most interesting part of your job, which tests your enthusiasm.
But then they hit you with the critique question.
Change question.
Is there something you would like to change about your studies or work?
And that question is so strategic. It forces you to move beyond just complaining. You have to actually articulate a desire for improvement.
Yeah, you have to propose a solution, even a small one.
Right. And if you can't articulate something you want to change, it suggests you aren't thinking critically about your own situation.
That makes sense. And it flows right into the final set of questions for this part, which is all about your daily routine.
This is all about self-management, habits, but again, it's not just a factual exercise.
They start with the practical. What time do you usually start your day? But then they immediately set up this really interesting choice.
The dichotomy. Do you prefer to plan your day or be spontaneous?
That one question reveals so much about how you handle stress, how you prioritize. Are you structured? Or are you adaptable?
And you have to defend your choice. You have to articulate why that style works for you.
And notice the focus on self-care, on self-improvement. These are huge modern themes. They ask, how do you usually relax after a busy day?
And then, is there anything you want to add to your daily routine?
It's so proactive. It demands that you're thinking about your own life, your own well-being.
So what this first section really proves is that to be an effective communicator, you have to have personal clarity. You have to be able to talk about the facts of your life, sure, but also your motivations, your preferences.
And your vision for how to make things better. Which brings us to section 2.
The core narrative challenge.
Yes, part 2. And here, The structure forces you to switch gears completely. You go from these rapid-fire questions to structured, personal storytelling for about 3 or 4 minutes.
This is where fluency and structure have to come together. You have to prove you can build a whole narrative, not just string a few sentences together.
And the source material is so specific about the topic. It has to be about describing a time when you received very good news.
Which is interesting. Why good news, you think?
Well, I think positive stories are challenging in their own way.
How so?
You have to convey joy, excitement, and most importantly, significance. It's actually easier to describe a problem. It's much harder to explain why a happy moment was so important, why it mattered.
That's a great point. It's a test of your ability to articulate positivity.
And the syllabus is really rigid about the structure. You had to hit 4 specific points to tell the story.
These become the backbone of your narrative. First, you have to define the news itself.
The what?
Then explain who delivered it. Then describe your reaction, the emotional part.
And finally, the most important part, explain why this news was important to you.
The why. That's the real payoff, isn't it? It turns a simple anecdote into a story that has meaning.
A story with significance, not just a list of events.
Exactly. But for me, the most insightful thing here is the preparation strategy they recommend.
Right. You only get 1 minute to prepare.
Just 1 minute. And the official guidance tells you to write down notes on 4 things: person, place, emotions, and reason.
That 1 minute limit, it forces you to think fast, to categorize everything immediately.
It's like they're handing you the secret formula for telling a good story under pressure.
It really is. By focusing on person, place, emotions, and reason, you're trained to ignore all the extra stuff that makes you ramble.
And it provides a huge takeaway for any listener. If you need to communicate a structured message, start with those 4 things.
It's brilliant, really. If you can generate those 4 inputs, you've got a solid 3-minute story ready to go. So this part really confirms that good communication is structured, even when you're talking about something personal.
And that leads us perfectly into the final and I think the most complex section.
Part 3, the critical extension.
We take that personal experience of good news and we use it to launch into a big discussion about news culture itself.
The shift is huge. You go from talking about a personal memory to assessing global communication ethics. And it's another 4 to 5 minutes.
Let's break it down. Subtheme A is about good news and society, and it starts by analyzing the speed of information.
The question is basically, do people share news more quickly today than in the past, and why?
I mean, the answer to the first part is obviously yes.
Of course. But the why is the interesting part. It forces a discussion on technology, social media, that feeling of urgency.
And it directly leads to the next point, how social media influences the way we spread news. It acknowledges this profound shift.
So you have to discuss not just the speed, but the implications. Like, does faster mean more accurate?
Which is a fundamental question for any citizen today.
Okay, so then it moves from distribution to psychology in subtheme B, emotions and communication.
This gets deep. They ask why people remember good news for a long time. It's a question about psychological retention.
If you connect that to neuroscience, good news triggers a positive emotional response, which reinforces the memory.
Exactly. And the assessment is asking you to be able to articulate that connection, that we remember things not just because of facts, but because of the emotion attached to them.
And it gets even deeper. The examiner asks, do you think receiving good news can change someone's behavior? And how?
So we're moving from just feeling something to actually doing something differently, actionable consequences.
The fact that they're prioritizing this shows that a key communication skill is being able to analyze how information leads to personal change,
It's a huge leap from just reporting facts to analyzing impact.
which prepares you for the final, and I think the most challenging part, subtheme, C-news culture, and authority,
This brings up the big dichotomy. Do people prefer good news or bad news?
which forces you to analyze your own media habits and societies. We're often wired to look for threats, for bad news. It's an evolutionary thing.
But the assessment requires you to articulate the reasons behind that preference. Is it psychological? Is it cultural? Is it serving us well anymore?
And that leads directly to the question of media ethics.
Should news channels show more positive stories?
That's a debate about the role of the press in shaping public mood, behavior, everything. It forces you to think about The societal cost of just focusing on sensationalism.
And the source material ends with the most critical point of all, connecting communication directly to governance.
The importance for governments to share accurate news with the public.
And that's the full journey. You go from what time do you wake up?
All the way to holding your government accountable for truth and transparency.
That summarizes the transition perfectly. This final part demands that you don't just understand your own life, but that you can analyze the ethical challenges of our entire global communication system.
It really does cover the full spectrum. We've seen the path, from talking about your daily routine in part one.
To building a meaningful story in part two.
And then finally, engaging in this critical analysis of media, psychology, and government ethics in part three.
The synthesis is clear. To be a good communicator, you need both. You need personal clarity about your own life and goals, and you need this broad societal awareness of how information actually works, how it flows, how it influences us.
So here's the final takeaway for you, the learner. This deep dive shows that a real communication assessment goes way beyond just grammar or vocabulary.
Way beyond.
It's rigorously testing our ability to reflect on our own lives, to manage telling a story under pressure, and to critically analyze the very information that shapes our world.
And based on those fascinating questions about good news, memory, and behavior, let's leave you with this provocative thought.
Okay.
If the ability to remember and act on positive information is a core competency that they're testing for, then what is the long-term cost to society of consuming a news diet that focuses almost entirely on conflict, on negativity, on threats?
What does that constant focus do to our collective ability to hope or to take constructive action? Something to mull over until our next deep dive. Thanks for joining us.